In 1999, we got The Matrix, Fight Club, and The Sixth Sense. In 2019, we got a slightly worse version of The Lion King. And 1999 wasn't an outlier. Go back and you'll find that previous audiences were spoilt for choice, with each month dropping instant classics. Fast forward to today and it's depressing. The decision tree for making movies today includes things like appeal to the Chinese consumer and make protagonist a superhero over more traditional factors such as good story. This video explores this trend and asks the question, have we just run out of movie ideas? Ghostbusters, The Lion King, Jumanji. Call me old-fashioned, but when I rewatch the old versions, I don't think, what this is missing is The Rock, or I wish Beyonce would start plugging her music right about now. Fortunately, I've checked Rotten Tomatoes and it's not just me. Add on 2012's Total Recall, 2014's RoboCop, and 2017's The Mummy, all were critically panned and are pretty diabolical compared to the originals. Marvel alone has churned out 37 movies since 2008, with annual production tripling. Since The Dark Knight Rises in 2012, Batman has appeared in at least 6 major movies, and that excludes everything that's Batman adjacent. I thought that 2019's Joker was great as a standalone film. Perhaps I shouldn't have been surprised that the studios thought that the next logical step would be to make a sequel as a musical with Lady Gaga. So, what's it all mean? What's it tell us that in a world with more people and tech than ever before, the creative output of our movies feels like it's flatlining? This is the part of the video where I out myself as not being against remakes and reboots entirely. That would be naive. In the course of making this video, I had to reckon with the fact that so many of my favourite films fall into that category. Al Pacino's iconic 1983 film Scarface was an incredible remake of the original 1932 gangster film, modernising the protagonist into a Cuban drug-dealing exile living in Miami. Think Cape Fear, and what springs to mind for me is a heavily tattooed Robert De Niro stewing in his prison cell rather than Gregory Peck from the 1962 original. And this is to say nothing of the Hollywood films that were inspired by foreign ones, such as the influence of the 2002 Hong Kong crime thriller Internal Affairs on Martin Scorsese's The Departed, which the American director transplanted to Boston. But I guess the point though is that those films were so good you forgot that they weren't completely original. And I think that should be the threshold for remakes and reboots, a vision that at least splits, if not wins over, a majority of people to that new vision. These films were made by investing the time to properly reinterpret and reimagine the original material, and the projects were staffed with people brimming with ideas about how to execute it all. So what's happened today? Well, this seems to be an area where the economics looms large. Some movies, even standalone ones, become their own brand, and as we know, brands get exploited. The growth of the new nostalgia economy, which has taken root as millennials and Gen Z grow up and get disposable income, has led studios to think that we want to see modern imaginings of the films we love. Another factor is that we now live in the attention economy, and that makes taking risks more difficult. It's easier to scroll past an indie film with the lead actor breaking their traditional typecast versus leveraging the goodwill of a brand name movie that people already know. That's clearly a calculation that a lot of producers and studios are now making from the get-go. Finally, I've got to give an honourable mention to some of the downsides of diversity. I get that minorities were almost never seminal characters in movies until recently, but today, the need to cast with spurious accuracy can stilt the chemistry of the resulting cast. After all, it's not easy to ensure that your leading trio is 12% lesbian and 4.5% indigenous tribes. It also bears saying out loud that the original film not having a diverse cast is not a reason in itself to remake it, though when we get a remake of The Godfather, I'm fully expecting it to look like Bridgerton. My parting thought is to leave you with Miramax. Putting aside Harvey, you've got to admit that the films pumped out by that production company were pretty phenomenal. It was hit after hit, with chances taken on obscure scripts, unknown actors and directors. The question is not whether we still have the creative vision to make films of that quality today, obviously we do, but whether modern tech and consumer trends would make them as successful. But the answer might lie back in this example. Miramax itself was only successful because it broke the mold of so many of its peers. It was the counter-cultural antidote to the cliches and excesses of Hollywood at the time, and well positioned to nourish a cynical and jaded young generation. Sound familiar? In the meantime, I won't see you at the movies. At least, not for a while.